So today we are going to see the, the remaining part of Lorentz force. So what we are going to see now that what will happen if there is a big magnetic field region, and in that magnetic field region you have a charge, and the charge is provided with some velocity. So if you do recall from the last previous lecture that we need a force, the force experienced by a charged particle placed in a magnetic field is given by the formula F is equal to Q V cross B. Okay. So based on this, now consider this situation over here. Say that you have a magnetic field which is, let us say, inside the board. Okay. This is the magnetic field region which is inside the board. And in this magnetic field region, this is my magnetic field. In this magnetic field region, I am providing a charge plus Q, a velocity of V. So if I provide this charge with velocity V, what is going to happen? So let's try to figure it out here. So V cross B. So this is my V cross B. V cross B. Where is the force? The force is in the upward direction. So if the force is in upward direction, that means the charge will not move in this direction. The charge will not move in this direction. The V cross B is creating a force in this direction, due to which it is going to create a deflection. Okay. Now let us say because of that deflection it reaches over here. Now let us say that the velocity is in this direction now. So V is in this direction, B is inside the board. So V cross B, the force is now in this direction. So here the force was in this direction, here the force is in this direction. So further the velocity will not be in this direction, it will again take a turn. Okay. So like this it will keep on going. So even if I consider the velocity V over here, V cross B, the force will be along this direction. Okay. So again it will take a turn. So ultimately, eventually what will happen? It will keep on moving in a circular path, because every time the velocity and the force will be perpendicular to each other, and this force will point towards the center. Okay. So instead of the velocity going in the straight direction, it will always take a bend. It will not go like this, again it will take a bend. So it will not go like this, again it will take a bend. Okay. So because of which what happens? Since this force is acting continuously, which is trying to bend the direction of velocity, because of which it will start experiencing a circular motion. Okay. And that circular motion is what we are going to discuss now. So I have to draw a neat circular motion. So this is my plus Q, this is my velocity V. So this is the circular path. Okay. And say that this is the center, this is the magnetic field region over here, these are all magnetic field region, and this is the center of the circle. So if you can see here, the force at this point will be in this direction. This is the force. So here they ask this very special question: what is the direction between the force and the velocity? And hence your answer is the direction between force and velocity is 90 degree. And every time the body tries to go out from the circle, the V cross B again pulls it back. Okay, so this is the force. Over here, this is the velocity. So this has to be the force. This is the force. V cross B. Okay, this is V cross B. So here again it becomes 90. So everywhere you take any point as velocity, the force will be perpendicular to it and pointing towards the center. Okay. So the moral of the story is that this force is now Q times of V B sine 90, because the angle between velocity and magnetic field, this is magnetic field is inside the board, so the angle between velocity and magnetic field is how much? Is equal to 90 degree. And how much is sine 90? Sine 90 is 1. So this force is acting always towards the center, which is helping this charge to move in a circular path, and hence this force will behave as a centripetal force, mv square by r. What is r here? R is the radius of the circular path thus obtained in this motion. Do you remember now from class 10, if you remember the chapter called modern physics, in chapter called modern physics, if you remember this, there was a question like this, some substance was kept over here, radioactive, and there is a magnetic field over here, and we used to say that gamma will go undeviated, alpha will go in this direction, gamma will go in this direction, and there was a magnetic field like this. Do you know what is this direction? It's nothing but a circular arc. This is nothing but a circular arc. Okay, it was this part. The concept was this. This was the concept here. Okay, so this will move in a circle. This will move in a circle. So the concept was this concept which we talked at that point. Okay, moving ahead. Sin 90 is 1. One of the velocity will get cancelled out. What we are left with? We are left with Q into B. Q into B, sin 90 is 1, that is equal to m. Okay, struggling. It is equal to mv by r. Okay. Now from here we are going to get a very interesting result. Let us find the r, the radius here. So radius will be equal to mv divided by b times of q. So radius will be equal to mv divided by b times of q. Now over here, look at here r. R is directly proportional to velocity. R is directly proportional to mass, inversely proportional to charge, and magnetic field. Magnetic field, okay, they will not that much, they will not disturb the magnetic field, but yes, Q and the F, they will disturb a lot. Now if you remember, this is a very important thing which I am going to tell you now. Electron has less mass compared to proton, but both of them will have the same charge. So if I compare electron and proton, both will have the same charge, but electron will have less mass. So for the same velocity of electron and proton, for velocity and q same, whichever has less mass will have less radius, whichever will have more mass will have more radius. Correct? The proton will have more radius because it has more mass, and electron will have less radius because it has less mass. Okay, so that type of questions can be asked over here. For that you should know what is proton. Proton is a charge which is more massive than electron but has the same charge. Electron, you know, it's a negative charge. Again, this one thing they will ask is what is alpha particle. Now if you remember alpha particle, what is alpha particle? Alpha particle is helium atom, that is helium 2 plus. So that is much more massive and twice the amount of charge than proton. So if I say mass of proton, let us say if I consider mass of proton as mp, then what is the mass of helium? Mass of proton and mass of neutron almost same. Okay, so what is the mass of helium nucleus? Mass of helium nucleus will have a mass of 4 times of mass of proton, because it will have 2 proton and 2 neutron, and I am assuming that neutron mass and proton mass are almost same. So 2 proton mass plus 2 neutron mass, that is equal to 4 times of mass of proton, because proton and neutron are almost same mass. Okay, so it is 4 times massive than the proton. Okay, so you should know these things. Okay, now what else? What else? Can you see mass times velocity over here? Mass times velocity is nothing but momentum, where P is momentum. No need to put vector sign, leave it. Where P is called momentum. Okay? And I can now further write this one as, if you remember momentum has a formula, a very interesting formula if you remember. Kinetic energy is equal to P square by 2m. This was the formula which we used to derive in class 10. Kinetic energy equal to momentum square by 2m. This you derive from half mv square. From there we derive this momentum square by 2m. So if what is momentum then? This implies momentum can be written as root over of twice m e or k. What is k? K is kinetic energy. So r I can write as p, I can write as root over of twice m k divided by b times of q. So now the whole radius has now come out to be in terms of kinetic energy. So we can answer this kinetic energy also. And kinetic energy also you can write. Kinetic energy you can write as, if you remember work principle, work done principle. Remember work done. Two things. Work done is equal to Q times of change in potential. Remember this formula, electrostatics. And now you apply work energy theorem. When a charge particle, when you accelerate a charge particle in a given potential difference, so the charge particle will get accelerated. So as per the work energy theorem, work done is equal to change in kinetic energy. So if the charge is initially at rest, it will gain a kinetic energy of k. So the same formula again I can now write as root over of twice m. K I can write as q times of v. What is v here? V is not velocity, my dear student. V is potential, accelerating potential. So same formula. Look at it, how many times I have changed it. Okay, so this is how they will twist you. They will twist the question. Not you. They will twist the question and then you will get trapped. So please make sure the same radius we are getting in this manner. Now we are not done with this. We are not done with this. There's more to come. So we saw that it is moving in a circular path. Okay, but this is the magnetic field. It is inside the board. And we saw that expression for radius also. Radius was equals to mv divided by bq. This was the velocity. This is the velocity. Now, how much time it will take to complete one rotation? So, time taken to complete one rotation will be equal to distance by speed. Now, distance by speed means distance by speed. What is distance? Distance is 2 pi r. Distance is circumference. It is 2 pi r divided by velocity. Now, you put the value of r here. So, 2 pi r you put mv by bq. And then divided by velocity. So divided by velocity, v gets out. So you get this one as 2 pi m divided by bq. And this is very interesting now. The time period of rotation is independent of velocity, but the velocity decides the radius. So I can have many charges rotating in the same space, and all will take the same time period with different velocities. But everybody will take the same time period. So the one which has more velocity will have to travel more distance. The one which has less velocity will have to travel less distance, such that time period to complete one rotation will be same. So if t is equal to this, how much is frequency? Frequency will be equal to 1 by t. So that is equal to, now reciprocate that. If I reciprocate this will become bq divided by 2 pi m. Okay? So don't forget this two results over here. Are this. So don't forget, remember again that it is independent of velocity. Please make a note of this. Don't be lazy. Please make a note of this, that it is, but you will miss it again. So please make a note that time period and frequencies are independent of velocity. It's a very important thing. Now based on this, scientists decide to develop a machine which can accelerate the particle. Okay, and that machine is called cyclotron. So the next thing which we are going to discuss now is cyclotron, whose working principle is same as the same what we have just learned. That when a charge is released in a magnetic field, it moves in a circular path, provided the velocity and the magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. Okay. If the velocity and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other, then they will move in a circular path. So I will start the new topic here. Since the theory is same, so it won't take much time. And the topic name is called cyclotron. A cyclotron is basically it's like two D's. These are called D's. These are called D's. D's. Okay? They are big actually. And we keep a magnetic field on everywhere in this region. Okay? Now, if you are having problem of imagining how does this D looks like, this D has a hollow structure. Inside it is a hollow part. See, if I consider one of the D, it will look like this. My God. Okay, so this is the hollow part. Okay. Okay, the best thing is it will appear in your screen right now. This is how it will look like. So you can see here this is the hollow part, and in that hollow part only we release the charge. So the charge moves inside the hollow part, but the structure is in D shape. One D on this, one D on this. Okay, and here we provide a alternating potential over here. Here we provide a alternating potential, alternating current, plus minus thing will happen. Now, why this plus minus thing will happen? Now, this is how we have to understand the concept of D, the cyclotron. So, let's start the cyclotron. Say that I released a charge over here with some velocity. So, V cross B, it will have a deflection, so it will go up, and because of that, it will move in a circular path like this. So, this is how it will move in a circular path. So it will cover this much time, and then it will come in this gap. There is a gap here. In this gap, there is no magnetic field. In this gap, there is no magnetic field. In that gap, I am attaching a alternating potential. So let us say when it reaches at the gap over here, it has reached the gap after how much time? It has reached this gap after a time of half the time period of rotation. Am I right? Because it is traveling half circle. And what is time period of rotation? Time period of rotation is 2 pi m by b cube. So when it comes to this gap, it will come after a time of t by 2, and that t by 2 is equal to pi m divided by b cube. Where this is my time period. Remember the time period? The time period was t equal to 2 pi m divided by b cube. So it will reach from here to here half of that time. So half of that time is pi m by b cube. Now when it reaches over here, this gap is very small, but at this gap, let us say that this is plus and this is minus. So this side is positive and this part is negative, because we are creating a potential over there, and this potential should change. It should alternate, because it's an alternating potential. Why it should alternate? I will come to that part very soon now. If this is plus and this is minus, what will happen? If this is a positive charge, it will accelerate in this gap. It will try to go from plus to minus. It will get accelerated in the gap if this is plus and if this is minus. Correct? That means when it enters in this D, its velocity will increase. When the velocity increases, its radius will increase. So the radius will increase here. And again it will take again half of the time. So when this takes again half of the time, when it comes back to the gap, the polarity should change. This should become plus and this should become minus. That's the reason why we cannot use a DC polarity over here. The polarity should keep on changing every time the charge comes to the gap. Okay? And remember, though the velocity has increased, the radius has increased, but time period does not depend on velocity. Time period depends on mass, charge, magnetic field. All those three things are same. That means the time period has not changed. The time period has not changed. Again when it reaches the gap, it has taken this much of time. And again this plus and minus has to change. So from this plus to this minus, now it will change to this plus and this minus. So what will happen? This will again accelerate and will enter with much more velocity. And then again the radius will increase. Then again the polarity will change. Again this will become plus, this will become minus. And then again this will enter with a larger velocity, and then again the radius will change. So what is happening inside the D only? I am accelerating the charge. Correct? Which is the accelerating area? The gap is the accelerating area. And suppose I have reached to a desired target now. If I reach to a desired target, there is always an opening over here, a small opening over here from where the charge can go out. And then this charge can go out and hit another nucleus to create a radioactive decay or to create any nuclear disintegration or anything, okay, of nuclear tap reactions, because we have accelerated the charge to such a high extent that it is now ready to go and hit something, okay. Well, that is the construction of D and the working of D. So in the space where the D is the shape, the D-shaped area has magnetic field, but the gap has electric field. How that electric field is created? By creating alternating potential. Okay. Now, what is the good thing about this alternating potential? We know that a potential alternates like this, correct? So from here to here, we call this as one cycle. One cycle. So this is time period of alternating signal, and this is half of the time period of alternating signal. This is called alternating current. So from here to here, this is called time period of AC signal. And from here to here, this part is called half the time period of AC signal. Now this half time period of AC signal has to be same as this, the time taken to rotate half circle. Okay? Because when I started with this as plus and this as minus, so by the time it comes over here, it should change. So it should change. The cycle should become negative. That means this will become negative, this will become positive. When this again comes over here, again this is again TAC by 2. Okay. So after every TAC by 2, the polarity is changing. The polarity is changing over here. Okay. So this will become minus, and then again it will become plus. So if I start with this point as plus, after some time this becomes minus. Okay. So if I start with this as plus, this as minus, so after this much of time, this becomes minus, this becomes plus. Again after some time, this becomes plus, this becomes minus. So every time it comes to the gap, it should experience a favorable potential to accelerate. Since it is coming back to the gap after each time of t by 2, so the change in polarity should also take place with the same timing. Okay, and hence we say that this t by 2, which is equal to pi by m by dq, must be equal to t of AC by 2, and this implies t should be equal to t of AC, and this implies f should be equal to f of AC. That means the frequency of alternating current or alternating voltage must be equal to the frequency of rotation of charge. Clear on this? This is called synchronization. They ask this question: what do you mean by synchronization? Synchronization means it's a process in which in the cyclotron the frequency of alternating current or alternating signal or alternating potential, whichever one you want to use, you can use. The frequency of alternating current, alternating potential must be same as that of the frequency of rotation of charge. This process is called synchronization. Okay? And this is the 3 steps working principle. If they ask you derive everything, then you have to start the derivation from here. mv square by r, whatever we derived just now, is equal to bqv. So one of the v gets cancelled out. So r is equal to mv by bq. Correct? And then t, and then t, and then you will write that this t by 2 must be equal to t AC by 2, and hence frequency of this should be equal to frequency of AC, and that is called synchronization. So just start from here. This is the repeated step. Just one more line you have to write. This time period, and then once you get time period, you write the value of this is time period formula in which you have to put the value of r. Once you put the value of r, you will get this result of 2 pi m by bq. and then half of this is how much? Half of this is this. And then you will write that since this time period is the half time period of rotation, so that must be equal to the half of the time period of alternating signal. And then from there we get 2 gets out, so ultimately we will get the signal. There is one very famous question which they ask over here. Some of you who genuinely love to read physics out of syllabus, you might have come across a topic called relativity. Now, relativity is such a topic in which Einstein said that I'm talking about special theory of relativity, in which he said that when a mass starts moving with a very high velocity, so that the velocity is almost comparable to that of the velocity of light, then the mass starts changing. Correct? Then the mass starts changing. And this is the formula: 1 minus v square divided by c square, where v is the velocity of the body and c is the velocity of light. So if you can see here, when let us think for example like this: when v becomes equals to c, then this becomes 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. Square root over 0 is undefined. Everything becomes undefined. Correct? That is what is happening over here. Now the question is they ask is, okay, neutron, proton, electron. Out of these three, one we cannot use in cyclotron. Which one? Neutron. Note down. Why? Because neutron has no charge. Here we need charge particle. So first of all, neutron goes out. Neutron we cannot use in cyclotron. What are things left? Proton and electron. Proton we can use alpha particle, because that is also helium 2 plus positively charged. Okay, alpha particle, proton. Okay, this we can use. Okay, we can use this. We can use electron also, but we use, but we don't prefer. Why? That's the question which they asked. Why electron is not preferred in cyclotron? So in that case we will write, since electron has less mass. Okay. See, I want to achieve a kinetic energy over here so that it can go and hit a target. Am I right? And kinetic energy is equal to half m v square. So the output velocity with which it is coming out, that has to be very high if my mass is very less, in order to achieve a desired kinetic energy. For example, I want a kinetic energy of 100 joule. But if my mass is very less, that means my velocity has to be very high to get 100 joule. Correct now? So, since electron has less mass, so it needs to be accelerated to a very, very high velocity in order to get a desired kinetic energy. Correct? First step, we understood that we need to accelerate the charge by we need to accelerate the electron to a very high velocity. Okay? Okay. When we start doing that, to accelerate the charge to an electron to a very high velocity, the relativistic effect comes into play. Relativistic effect, correct? Or as per the theory of relativity, the mass starts changing for the electron, because the speed, it almost starts approaching the velocity of light, maybe even 80%, 90%, 70%, even 50% of the velocity of light, still is very high. That will also change the mass. So due to which the mass starts changing. Now that is the main problem. If my mass starts changing, now remember, mass controls the time period, right? If my mass starts changing, the time period of rotation will start changing. Correct? The time period to complete one rotation will start changing. If my time period of rotation starts changing, then my synchronization thing will get affected. So I started with two frequency of alternating voltage and frequency of rotation as same. But what happens, because of relativistic effect, my frequency of rotation starts changing. So these two are not equal anymore. So it becomes out of step. If it is out of step, the whole cyclotron is of no use. Okay? It is of no use. Synchronization is very essential in order to accelerate the charged particle. So this is the reason why we don't use electron, or we don't prefer electron in cyclotron, because it has very, very less mass. Okay? Okay. So So the next thing which we need to know now is okay, this much only. The next thing we are going to start is the force on a current carrying wire. Force on a current carrying wire is the next topic, and this is what we have learned at cyclotron. Remember, we need machines which can accelerate charge. This charge will further go and hit another charge in the nucleus, so that a nuclear disintegration may start or nuclear reaction may start. Okay, and that thing we need to know in order to understand the universe. So this is not just the ordinary cyclotron; it's a very, very biggest, one of the biggest step science has had taken when they made the cyclotron. Okay, but it's outdated now because we have a much more bigger version. You know, in Geneva and all we have big machines are there of billions dollars. Okay, okay, but still we learned something today. Thank you for watching.